Welcome to Rye, one of the most unusual and distinctive small towns in Britain. What makes it so unique? Well, that's something you're about to find out, as during the next 15 minutes or so, we explore something of the history, the wealth of fascinating stories that lie behind virtually every building and every street in this small East Sussex town. And your guide to the town is this, the Rye Town Model, painstakingly built by Joy Harland and her husband Ted over a span of some 4 years and acquired by the town in 1981. Assembled from maps, from direct observation and from historical reference pictures, it shows the town not as it is today, but as it was well over a century ago in around the year 1872. You could be forgiven for thinking that little has changed, because although the town of Rye has altered a lot in detail, it's believed to retain more of its original historic buildings than any other town in Britain. And of course the street plan within the town has changed very little in almost 1,000 years. Before exploring the town in detail though, let's first help you to get your bearings. Now, this is where we are now, at the west end of the old town, with the slopes of Mermaid Street straight ahead leading up towards the church whose steeple has been a beacon for shipping for centuries. From here, the Channel coast lies 2 miles to the south, and close by us are the remains of the old town wall. To the north, the land gate still guards another entrance to the town. But let's begin at the beginning. As you can see, Rye itself stands on a hill. Once, the sea came right up to steep cliffs on 3 sides, making the site an island at high tide, and this isolated position protected Rye for centuries. But by the time of the 14th century, the picture had changed. Today, little remains of the original buildings, but visitors to Rye in medieval times would have found a thriving small community. The Church of St. Mary the Virgin was completed in the mid-12th century. The Friars of the Sack, an order of mixed monks and nuns, settled in nearby Church Square a century or so later. This building is now one of the few stone houses in Rye. Here, in a cluster around the church, were crude wooden settlements, the homes of fishermen and sailors who made a precarious living from the surrounding coast. There was trading too, and a royal mint was established in Rye in 1141. Indeed, the mint is still remembered today in the name of this street. Later, Rye was declared a head port of the Cinque Port Confederation, one of the coastal towns pledged to supply ships and men to the king in times of trouble, in return for privileges amounting almost to self-government. For the purpose of defence, Rye had a castle built in the reign of King Henry III for Peter of Savoy, his warden of the Cinque Ports. Today, the Wipers Tower still stands and is home to the popular Rye Museum. Throughout the medieval years, the settlement grew steadily, constantly increasing in population and influence. Life was seldom peaceful for very long, however. From the sea, the new settlement now appeared as a tempting target for raiders from across the Channel, who, not content with attacking isolated shoreline farms and homesteads, stole ashore in 1377 to ransack the town in the most audacious raid ever. In the commotion, the town of Rye was almost completely destroyed by fire. 16 citizens were killed, and even the church bells were seized and carried off to France as a trophy. An insult that was not forgotten. A year later, a raiding party from Rye and Winchelsea stormed the Normandy coast in reprisal and recaptured those same bells. But to the citizens of Rye, the raid of 1377 had been the final straw. Within a matter of days, they dispatched an urgent petition to King Edward III's palace in Westminster. The king was then some 20 years into his long reign.
Well, Lord Chancellor, are we done?
Almost, Your Majesty, save one thing. A petition it is from the townsfolk of Rye. They are demanding...
Demanding?
They are requesting Your Majesty see fit to grant them
Here, let me see.
a town wall.
I have no wall around my palace at Westminster. What do they need a wall for?
The town is greatly troubled by French raiders, Your Majesty.
Can they not fight them off?
Your Majesty, the town is only needing of a wall where the cliff defend it not. They say the existing earth banks are totally insufficient. Oh, and remember, Your Majesty, Rye is one of your Cinque Ports.
How much do they want you?
Well, according to calculations, to provide a sufficient height to deter all raiding parties...
Oh, let's see what we can do then. My purse isn't bottomless, you know.
But it was another 3 years before the money was found and building could commence. Once the town wall was in place, Rye was totally protected on all sides. Indeed, when the tide was high, access to the town depended on just one town gate, the land gate, that can still be seen today. Much of the street plan established then still endures, with Mermaid Street, Watchbird Street, and the High Street running east to west, and East Street, Lion Street, and West Street cutting north to south. Local legend has it that a few years later, building work of a rather more sinister nature was taking place here, close to the monastery near Tower House.
Spare us, Father Prior! Please spare our lives! We meant no wrong! I could not help myself! I love Amanda! How can this be wrong?
It is the Lord's will, Cantata. In succumbing to the charms of Amanda and falling low before the weakness of the flesh, you have broken your vows of chastity. This you cannot deny. Therefore must all temptation henceforth be removed. Mason, fix the final stones in place.
Father Abbot! Father! Please! No!
May the Lord have mercy on your souls.
For this, the crime of falling in love, a monk in the friary of Rye and Amanda, daughter of a merchant who resided in the nearby Tower House, were entombed alive, to die in agony. Such was the Lord's will. And it is said that upon the darkest nights, their cries may still be heard echoing down Turkeycock Lane. When Queen Elizabeth I ascended the throne in 1558, Rye was the centre of a long-established tradition of shipbuilding. Here, along the banks of nearby rivers, forest timbers from the Weald were fabricated into mighty warships. In 1573, the Queen herself visited in great procession and granted the town the noble title Rye Royal in honour of her splendid reception. This was a time when Rye was a popular centre for all kinds of luxury goods brought from abroad, and fish landed at Rye was daily sent to London by packhorse. The Mermaid Inn, the George Inn, and the Red Lion all flourished at this time, when Rye Royal was one of England's most influential centres of commerce, and Mermaid Street the very heart of the town. Two centuries later, Rye played host to another royal visitor, King George I, though his visit was somewhat less planned. In the winter of 1725, he was on his way from Hanover to Southampton when a storm threatened to wreck his ship. For safety, the captain decided to put His Majesty ashore at Rye.
Steady there! Hold her steady! This way! Hold hard, Your Majesty!
Sind wir in London?
Nein, Your Majesty, ist nicht London. Sorry, Your Majesty! Careful now! We'll soon have you ashore!
Wo sind wir? Was ist das für eine Stadt?
It's Rye, König!
Rye? Ist Rye in England?
Ja, mein König, Rye ist in England.
Despite his reluctance, King George soon found the people of Rye just as welcoming as they had been to Queen Elizabeth over a century earlier. And for the 3 days that the storm raged, the royal party was lodged at Lamb House, just here at the top of West Street, while winds and heavy snowstorms prevented them moving on to London. As if this wasn't enough disruption, Lamb's wife Martha gave birth to a son on the first evening of the king's stay. Yet it is said that George, German George the people called him, enjoyed the hospitality of Rye so much that before his departure he agreed to act as godfather to Lamb's child. And he was indeed as good as his word.
George Lamb, I hereby baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen.
The king never quite got round to mastering the language of his new kingdom. James Lamb lay at the centre of a rather more infamous incident in Rye some years later. A butcher of the town, one John Breeds, took exception to fines levied on him by Lamb for selling short weight, and decided to revenge himself on his critic. One evening in 1742, as darkness fell, he waited in the churchyard close to Lamb's house, his sharpest knife at the ready. A figure emerged dressed in the mayor's distinctive gown, and Breeds showed no mercy. He fell upon his victim with such fury that soon he was left for dead.
There, my lord Lamb. You would put me to poverty. But who is the victor now? Butchers should kill lambs. Butchers should kill lambs.
But by a tragic twist of fate, the man in the mayor's robe was not James Lamb. Instead, the victim of this brutal murder was his brother-in-law and deputy mayor, Alan Greville, who had agreed to attend an official dinner in his place when Lamb was feeling unwell. When Breed's knife was found at the scene of the crime, his fate was sealed. He was duly hanged out on the salt marsh, his body set inside an iron gibbet to rot and swing in the wind as an awful warning to others. The original cage still stands in the attic of the fine Georgian town hall, with the skull of John Breeds locked forever inside. Rye also achieved a certain notoriety for what was practically a way of life. Smuggling. The 18th century witnessed the heyday of this illegal trade. Wines and spirits, tobacco and tea were smuggled in, while by far the greatest smuggling export was wool, a commerce known locally as owling, after the calls used as secret signals. Raiders, merchants, fishermen, sailors and smugglers, each in their turn knew the town of Rye. They all made their contribution to making the town a remarkable place, crammed with fascinating places and stories. High on St Mary's Church, for example, you may see what is reputed to be the oldest church turret clock in England, still telling the time for all to see over 450 years after it was first installed. And just around the corner in Mermaid Street, can be found another connection with Elizabeth I. In her reign, an extension was built to the old hospital, and the Queen planted a mulberry tree in the garden. These plants were essential to feed the silkworms used by the Protestant Huguenot silk weavers, hundreds of whom made their homes in Rye to avoid persecution in France. There are historical buildings like the old grammar school and ye olde tuck shop, no doubt the haunts of hundreds of schoolboys in years gone by. And even though the sea has long since retreated, there is still cannon in place in the gun garden. To celebrate the 80th birthday of the Lord Warden of the Cinque Ports, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, the 3 new cannon were cast here in Rye. Picturesque, delightful and quirky by turn. No wonder Rye has appealed to so many artists and writers over the years. Joseph Conrad, E.F. Benson and H.G. Wells are just 3 of scores of famous names who've occupied homes within these streets. And of course you may still see Henry James' house in West Street. Yes, Lamb House, in which he lived for the last 16 years of his life, writing The Ambassadors and The Golden Bowl, amongst other masterpieces. Today the whole town of Rye is protected by a conservation order, which forbids interference with the appearance of the town, and has kept Rye safe from high-rise buildings and major redevelopments. Indeed, the town you see before you retains exceptionally strong links with its past. So, we hope you enjoy your visit here today, as you go out and explore for yourself the cobbled streets of Rye Royal, and all its many charms.
Yes.
Well, actually here.
So that's
That's so when you I don't know if you've been in the high street and you've seen Adams, which is
and that house, the white
Yes,
one,
yes.
is opposite. That's just like
there's the white one and then there's one down here.
Yeah, down the path.
Yes, down
Yes.
the path. And they have this big garden. And actually it now goes no it doesn't, it goes as far as there.
Yeah.
Because that's now the converted ambulance station, which is now Airbnb.
Oh yes. Right. Okay. Yes, I know.
But you know, that's still there, and a lot of them are. I mean, this is still here. All these are still there. You know, I mean, it's extraordinary that because you have no idea.
I still find. I mean, I moved here in November, but I'm still finding little sort of snippets.
Where are you?
Things.
Where are you?
I was in Lewis before.
Okay. And you suddenly find all these little alleyways and a
Yeah.
I don't know what they call them here. Of course,
No.
they don't have a big one as Kent, which is a triple.
Yes, it is in Lewis.
Yeah. Or is it?
Yes.
But we've never called them Triton here.
No.
Anyway, if you want to have around and take any pictures, please do. We're not changing it, but the film is now 30 years old. And some of it is a bit. The George bit where he's got. But it was so. We're going to keep it. We're going to make it a bit short.
I had no idea that you had a German. We had a speaking too.
Yes. It was frowned upon.
Yes, yeah. And we've got George the Wise who didn't parking. And he didn't spend very much time here, like. He'd rather be in.
First Bernadette.
And you had Bernard, he was the favorite, wasn't he? He was the.
His wife never learned Swedish and she hated reading Sweden. There's this funny story about the peasants being sent out to greet her when she arrived in Sweden. And they were taught to say, but they didn't understand what they were saying, so they thought they were actually saying she was right.
it's not. No.
It's none of our dogs.
It's
actually.
none of our dogs.
He or she is very well behaved.
Well,
Quite.
Manage, but don't let her anywhere near it.
no.
It's not 10th age.
No. Exactly.
So if you might carry her out, honestly, she's screaming. Should I take your backpack?
If you could.